study. So I would like to go over the procedures of the study session for the commission and the public present. Planning staff will make a presentation. It'll be about 15 to 20 minutes. Planning commission will then have a comment and question period, about 20 minutes, followed by 5 to 10 minutes of public comment, and then we'll wrap it up by 7. So staff, could you begin the presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we'll be talking about the Tasmania specific plan, give the Planning Commission an overview of the plan itself and its current status. We'll also go into a little bit more detail on our open space strategy, connectivity throughout the neighborhood, community amenities, and this idea of a density incentive, and then wrap up with next steps. So the key elements of the Tasmania specific plan are that we're shooting for a total of 4,500 dwelling units, or about 100 dwelling units per acre on a 45-acre site, 100,000 square feet of commercial space, a main street that really defines the overall character of the neighborhood, which is shown in red, Calle del Sol, which includes an extension through what we're calling the island between Calle del Mundo and Calle de Luna. The road network is also completed by an extension of Lick Mill Boulevard into the City Place project, and complemented by a series of greenways that'll be created as the projects are built. So that all goes along with a distributed open space network totaling 10 acres of parkland. So as of this moment in time, we have 8 development applications on file from a total of 5 developers. Already almost 3,500 units applied for now. So successful specific plan at this point. And that also includes about 50,000 square feet of commercial and 500 below market rate units. So one of the things that we were wondering about as we were starting the process is would this specific plan attract the development in a variety of types? The cheapest type to build is type 5, which is basically wood frame construction and only goes up to about 5 stories. You can achieve 100 dwelling units to the acre with that, but higher densities than that require different construction methods. But what we've seen as a result of the applications that we've received so far is that there is interest in building towers within the Tasman East area and other types of construction. So yeah, the specific plan area does support more costly types of construction. So to date, there's been a number of outreach meetings, community meetings, 5 council study sessions. We just wrapped up EIR circulation about 2 weeks ago. We're currently working on responses to comments. I'll run through who's commented on the EIR at the end of this. And just sort of setting the table for the actual Planning Commission hearing on the project in a month's time. What you'll be hearing in a month's time is adoption of the specific plan and no individual projects, which will be at the architectural committee level. So, as I mentioned earlier, there have been a number of council study sessions on a variety of different topics. There's also been what we've been calling stakeholder meetings. We've had a technical advisory committee comprised of other agencies that's met 3 times. And we've also had a number of community meetings out at the Northside Library. So to talk about the open space strategy a little bit, the plan includes 5 acres of dedicated open space, meaning 5 acres that developers will be required to dedicate to the city. And those are shown in the larger green circles. Within each district in the specific plan area, there are districts with different names. So for instance, this district near the edge of the Guadalupe River is called, obviously enough, the River District. each district has a different requirement for open space, for dedicated open space. So within the River District, there's a 2.5 acre requirement. So as of this moment, given the applications that are on file, this park is, in the applications of the two developers that are applying, along with the application for the Bridge District and at least part of the Hill District's park and the park for the Bridge District. So yeah, the dedicated open space is moving forward. So complementing that, as I said earlier, is a series of greenways and also private open spaces that are given 50% credit for total open space, and also a series of privately owned but publicly accessible open spaces that also figure into that 10 total acres. So as far as open space connectivity, the greenways actually really help to knit all of the parks within the district together, but they also offer ways out of the Tasman East area to more regional amenities like the Guadalupe River Trail and the Central Park North within City Place. So the greenways are really a key part of our open space strategy and open space connectivity. But complementing that are also obviously the public streets, which help to unlock things like Central Park North and things like Eulestack. So within Tasman East, I'm going to describe the roadways and the street treatments a little bit. Calle del Sol, which you saw earlier, is the main street. That actually has, we're planning for a variety of possible treatments, keeping the roadbed the same width as it is now, which is 48 feet, but having possible 2, 3, and 4 lane configurations depending on the ultimate traffic load. The configuration that's shown here is a 3-lane configuration, including parking for the retail that would be along Calle del Sol. And, allows for turning into Tasman, or from Tasman into the project area. So the feeling of Calle del Sol would obviously be a bit of a main street, allowing for a fair amount of spill-out space, tables and chairs right near the public right-of-way. This should be really the comfortable place where people gather. So greenways are a key part of the Tasman East plan, as we were saying before. Minimum 30 feet in width. They'll offer mid-block connections and link parks and open spaces together. They could include things like this private open space, which includes both a decomposed granite path and a concrete walkway. Landscaping is going to be really lush in these. So Calle de Luna is the street that runs east-west through Tasman East now, and will be the primary connector, especially to Ace Rail and to City Place beyond. So at this point in time, it's planned for 2 lanes plus a center turn lane and parking. So the feeling would be mostly residential in character because retail is really planned along Calle del Sol. So stoops, grassy areas, a little relief from buildings with landscaping. Plan to be very active in character. One of the things that's changed over the course of the plan is one of the greenways has moved adjacent to the Calle de Luna sidewalk. So that'll offer an opportunity for expanded open space in a greenway directly parallel to Calle de Luna itself. Calle del Mundo is the most residential and includes bike lanes, also includes a center turn lane. So this is the only street where we're actually narrowing the roadway. Most of the roadways in Tasman East now are 48 feet. in terms of the roadbed, and they're being kept that dimension. Calle del Mundo is going down a few feet to 42 feet curb to curb, but that includes 3 lanes of traffic and bike lanes. So just giving an idea of, again, the use of stoops to create multiple entry points, allowing people to really flow onto Calle del Mundo pretty easily. Bike lanes are a big part of the plan. Bike lanes will connect through between Calle del Mundo and Lick Mill Boulevard. So Lick Mill Boulevard is the more regional amenity or regional street with 4 lanes of traffic. This is a result of the City Place plan. City Place is actually required to construct this as a part of their project. So the extension between Tasman and the City Place project. And it includes bike lanes and a center median. So this is just illustrative, the idea of 4 lanes plus a center median plus bike lanes. The actual plan would not include retail on the ground floor along Lick Mill Boulevard. So as far as community amenities go, each project is anticipated to have a community meeting space where residents within the development can meet. City's also planning on a community-wide meeting space, 2,000 square feet in area. Complementing that would be a bookmobile landing space adjacent to the community meeting space, and things like free book share incorporated into commercial spaces. So just to sort of summarize here, Tasman East offers a transit-oriented development, providing housing and near transit and employment, really focuses on placemaking with open space, a key feature of the entire project. Allows for, or will include a community room and library services, and will have a shared infrastructure financing plan for the more costly parts of redeveloping the Tasman East area. So the comments that we've received on the Tasman East EIR, we received comments from both the City of San Jose and City of Sunnyvale, the VTA, our San Jose's Airports Department, the Water District, the CPUC in terms of rail crossings, our county local enforcement agency who deals with the landfill, so that was a comment relating to the old landfill that's now the golf course. The San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission who operate the ACE train, the school district, an attorney representing labor unions, and a private citizen. We've also received a comment letter tonight that's directed more towards the study session, but includes an EIR comment from the Sierra Club and the Audubon Society jointly. So one thing that we'd also like to talk about a little bit is this idea of a density incentive to offer a bit of an incentive to developers to consider more costly construction types that would allow more units, with the trade-off being a slightly lower percentage of affordable housing at the higher end. And so to explain that a little bit more completely, the way that the density incentive could work is in the first phase of the project where the required affordable, required number of inclusionary units is 10% of the total project. The idea would be to structure that so that that 10% requirement goes up to 120 dwelling units per acre. And then between 120 and 140 dwelling units per acre, the affordable increment goes down a little bit to 8%. And over 140 dwelling units per acre, where type 1 construction might be in play, the percentage of affordable units goes down a little bit more to 5%. So to play that out, if you had a 1 acre site, the total number of affordable units at the 120 dwelling unit per acre number would be 12. If you went up to 140, you'd provide 13 units, and 160, 14 units instead of the 16 that would normally be provided under a 10% requirement at any density. So slightly lower affordable units produced, but a larger number of total units produced. I think that's the trade-off that we're considering is it might be worthwhile to provide a larger number of units in exchange for a few less affordable units. So as far as next steps go, so we're having the study session tonight. EIR will be distributed in advance of the next Planning Commission hearing, which is, so final EIR should be out on October 12th. Planning Commission hearing will be on the 24th of October with a City Council hearing on the 13th of November. And with that, I'll open it up or give it back to you for discussion.
Did anyone raise their hand
Oh.
on this system? I haven't seen anyone. I don't see any raised hands on this system.
I pressed it.
So I don't see any hands here. So I don't know if we should go to the lights or if I don't see any hands being raised. Sorry, I need help here. Yeah, well, when people raise their hands, right, if they're logged in. Didn't sign in the chair, I just hit join. Somehow it unjoined me. Okay. Commissioner Kelly.
I just had a couple basic questions. The height limits, because I know we're restricted by the flight path. What is our maximum height like for the towers?
The maximum height would be 220 feet.
Which is how many stories?
About 20.
Okay. And then obviously we want to maximize housing because all the office is going in there. With the office that's predicted to go in there in the next, say, 5 years, what's our anticipated job to housing ratio over the next couple of years anticipated to be?
We'd have to go back and look at the general plan, but I think that the city's jobs to housing ratio has been over the current general plan and close to 2. So you're right, housing is needed at this point.
So last time I asked that question, we were over like 2.9 jobs per housing unit. So
I'd need to go back and check.
okay, if you just could update the Planning Commission, because when these projects come in front of us, having the numbers, number of jobs versus number of housing units, it is very beneficial and it's helpful for the public to have an idea of where we're at because it keeps coming up and we'd like to just put it out there, especially at like these meetings, the community outreach, so people kind of understand why we want to have more housing there because of the number of jobs that are there and anticipated to be there. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Chahal.
A question regarding affordable housing. You know, it was supposed to be other way around, like higher the density, you are asking for more affordable units, versus here what we are doing is when we are going 140, we are reducing the percentage of affordable units. And when we are going even higher, we are even reducing it. Why is that?
The idea was to create an incentive to build the more expensive type 1 type buildings that offer more total units. So type 1 construction goes above 8 stories, could be in the range of 160 dwelling units per acre or more, where historically there's been people have shied away from building that type of construction just because it's more expensive. It's significantly more costly than the type 5 construction. So to try to offset that and create more total units, this was an idea.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Casey.
Okay, so this is a specific plan. So do we have any developer who has offered to do this for the city?
So multiple developers have applied already under the specific plan. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 5 developers at this point with 8 total projects.
Uh-huh.
So 26 acres of the 38 or so acres that are private property are already proposed for development. So the specific plan has created a fair amount of interest in the neighborhood.
So we're gonna go into development agreement with each of these developers?
No, they'll be operating under, or they'll be developing under the specific plan. So that's one of the really good things about a specific plan, is that the rules are set out.
So it's a similar deal as the city place next door. Well, I mean, we have one agreement.
If you're looking for an analogy, I would say it's more similar to what we did for the Lawrence Station area plan. If you recall,
okay.
we approved the specific plan, and that same evening, we had 2 projects that were approved. One was Summerhill and one was, I forget.
Got
But
it.
there was no development agreement for those.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so let's see now. I'm sorry, I was trying to get my computer fixed, so I may have missed some of the points you made. Can you talk about how the traffic will flow and how this will be integrated with the development next door in terms of like traffic flow and have encouraging residents to spend time at the city place, and because I mean, these 2 are massive developments, and we want the local residents to go next door because that will mitigate traffic, etc.
So as I mentioned earlier, there is a plan for more regional connectivity, both pedestrian and automobile. The impacts of traffic, both from the Tasman East plan and from the City Place project, were analyzed as a part of the EIR. And we have our traffic people here, and they can talk a little bit more about the results of the TIA, if you'd like.
Okay, but my question is, can you show the site plan for both so that we can see how the traffic will flow from one development to the other and back and forth? Because I wasn't quite sure if I saw that.
So the plan includes the extension of Lick Mill Boulevard through the site to City Place. And City Place also includes connections across Lafayette to increase the ability to cross back and forth across the across the rail line.
So what kind of connection is that? Is that like a big boulevard, or is it like a pathway, or?
The Lick Mill Boulevard extension is a 4-lane road that goes through the site. So it's the one that we showed that includes a center median. So 4 lanes plus a center median plus bike lanes in both directions.
So can we go back to the other page again?
Yep. So that's that roadway there. So it's Lick Mill Boulevard and it extends, or it currently runs past Eulastack to the south, and it would go into the City Place development where the office park will be.
Okay, what about the commercial side, where the restaurants and stores are going to be? Is there going to be any direct connection?
Yeah, so there are going to be direct connections that City Place is proposing across Lafayette. The big barrier there is that the rail line is right along Lafayette and creates a bit of a barrier. So those will have to be overcrossings.
But there's going to be an overpass from the Tasman East residential area directly into where the hotels and restaurants are going to be?
It's actually shown going into the office park at City Place, but yeah, that'll be right adjacent to Tasman East.
So what I'm hearing is there's no direct walkway from the residential into the restaurant, because isn't that how people will be spending their time? They're not gonna, if I live there and if I don't work at the office, how am I gonna get to the restaurants?
Okay, so there are pedestrian connections along Tasman and also connections into along Lafayette. But yeah, the main connection from a pedestrian standpoint is along Tasman itself.
Oh, can you show that on the map? I didn't quite understand what you just said.
So Tasman Drive, which connects to the front door of the Tasman East project at Calle del Sol, people could walk along the sidewalk at Tasman Drive and into the City Place project.
Okay, so there's no direct way to get into the center of the action where all the restaurants will be. They have to go to the main street and then turn back into the City Place. Is that what's going to happen?
So again, there's a connection in the middle directly. This is just immediately, this is a couple hundred feet north of the Tasman East project. So very close, and goes directly into the City Place project. So that is a connection. It's just not a part of the Tasman East plan. But it's very, very close.
And it's a walkway?
Yes.
And it's accessible to just the residents, or?
It'll be an overcrossing that includes a roadway, but accessible to the residents if they walk along Lafayette. Yeah, a couple hundred feet, and then, right, it's accessible to the public.
But that's going to be done by City Place related, not the.
Correct.
All right, next question. Let's see now. Can you talk about how Calle del Sol is going to connect to the light rail?
Yeah, so Calle del Sol is really the primary retail street, and will include enhancements to crosswalks to allow people a little bit easier access to the light rail. Really, this is going to be thought of as, you know, the main gathering area in the Tasman East area. And in addition, there's going to be a small a pocket park just directly across from the light rail station that'll allow people to gather and hang out while they're waiting for the light rail.
I'll just add a little emphasis to that too. You know, Calle del Sol is being extended northward. That's the bottom segment of it. Which one's that?
Got it.
I see, it takes a while. So and this segment is existing, and then this segment is an extension. And then you have these greenways, and so together, and then of course there are sidewalks along all the streets. All of that provides a high degree of pedestrian connection within this relatively small area. And it directly connects to where the light rail station is on Tasman, sort of the main street. And then just as John was saying, once you get to Tasman, there's sidewalks on both sides. This is, while City Place is pretty large, I think it's going to have a lot of activity out on Tasman. It's kind of the front door. So, you'll be entering as a pedestrian, most likely along Tasman into like the front door of City Place if you wanted to walk over there. And it's really very walkable. These distances are comfortable.
Okay, thank you. And the related project is further ahead than Tasman East, right? And as I recall, it's the lower left part that's going to get developed first by related, right? So in terms of like phasing and when things will be built, how do they sync with each other so that, if the housing goes up, they should have access to the related portion that's already been built so that they don't have to wait until the later phases are built by related to have access to that commercial area.
So the City Place project has been entitled for a while, so it has a head start. But it also has some, there was a lawsuit, some delay there, and it's fairly complex, most of it because it's being built over landfill. So it has a more complicated level of engineering and construction than a lot of what we're seeing in the residential Tasman East. At this point, I would probably anticipate that both are developing about the same time. It's hard to say exactly when, but I think the residential developers are eager to move quickly to capture the market that we have at the moment, and then of course City Place folks are moving forward with that as well. So I've also heard from Related say that because City Place is really a large integrated shopping center environment with a lot of other commercial uses mixed in, that's the sort of thing that you don't do much in phases. They want to bring it, the office piece probably later, but the initial main heart of it would be developed more or less at the same time, not phased out over a period of time.
We want to make this community walkable, so I'm a little concerned that there's only one path from the Tasman East to City Place. Well, actually two, on Tasman and that pathway. Is there any way another path in the middle so that they can get to the commercial area more quickly?
Well, the challenge is really the grade separation and the railroad tracks and things that go through there that you have to cross. It's hard to get crossings with railroad tracks.
But you said that the one in the pathway is going to be an overpass, so.
Yeah, so if you wanted to build multiple overpasses, the cost of that, you kind of weigh, it's to move one block or two out of your way, you kind of have to weigh the cost and the benefit, and we think this is a good solution.
And I keep talking about, connectivity and accessibility. When we reviewed the related project, we didn't see a lot of details on where the buses and other public transportation will come in. Do we have any more detailed plans fleshed out?
Yeah, I don't think we have that information with us at the moment, so we'd have to bring that back. So you want information where bus stops would be related in the related City Place development? Because
we're looking at this plan and we want to make sure that residents can walk to the public transportation easily, walk to the commercial area easily, be able to go shop and dine easily, and it's not clear to me if that's going to happen based on what I see here. So yeah, that's my.
Yeah, we have Dennis in from Public Works Transportation Division that's going to, I think, say something about this. All right.
And if you're going to talk about that, if you could also talk about connectivity to BART, I'd appreciate that because that was going to be my next question.
Okay, so there's actually another pedestrian crossing at grade on Lafayette. It's at the existing Calle de Sol and Lafayette intersection.
Can you show on the map?
That orange line.
I think you should be able to just move your finger around and get it.
Trying to orient myself here. Okay, so Lafayette's right here, and Calle de Sol, and the train station is in this area. So currently, people can walk across the street, cross the train tracks, and then they'll be in the transit center, the future transit center for City Place. And then that leads right into the city core also. There'll be a grand plaza and staircase leading up to the main area.
So are they going to be overpass into the transit station? You know the typical design you see at BART station. Is that what's going to happen?
No, it won't be over. There won't be a grade separation because there isn't an electrified rail or anything. They'll cross that grade like they currently are able to right now.
Okay. And how do they walk into the transit station? Is it going to be like a station or?
Yes, there's a current station there right now, and people walk across the street to get into there.
Okay.
And then City Place will be enhancing that and making it into a better, larger transit area for VTA buses, shuttles, and ACE Capital Corridor shuttles and employee shuttles in the future.
And is there going to be a shuttle or a bus service to the new BART stations?
That is yet to be determined. We'll work with VTA on that, but VTA will be enhancing their light rail service so that there'll be connections to the Milpitas BART station.
Right. Thank you. I have more questions.
I think we were running out of time. Can I go to Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Becker.
So is Calle de Luna and Calle de Sol still going to be the prime access point and somewhat called, a ramp to get to Tasman? Is there going to be other ways to alleviate that kind of traffic getting from that area to Tasman from Lafayette?
So in addition to what you're talking about, the Calle de Luna and Calle del Sol sort of off-ramp between Lafayette and Tasman, Calle del Mundo.
It's like a circle, in some respect. A wide...
It's a bit of a square loop.
Yeah.
From Lafayette to Tasman along Calle de Luna and Calle del Sol. That'll be enhanced by the Lick Mill Boulevard extension, which will connect Calle del Mundo. So there will be two ways through.
Okay.
So that particular pinch point will be improved.
Okay, and then for those bridges that Commissioner Kesey was talking about, one of them is pretty much, it looks like on the map right here, the crossing point is kind of what they have the golf bridge already, for the golf cart bridge already, correct? That's kind of similar strategy, that's what they're going with on that?
Right.
Okay, and then as for affordable housing, what possible way would there be to get even more affordable housing within this area? Is there a rule against it, or is there some way we can get more about it?
Well, the city recently adopted an inclusionary housing ordinance that took effect August 1st. So technically projects filed before August 1st weren't subject to it. As part of the specific plan, we've negotiated, the plan would include a requirement of 10% for those projects that came in early, up to another year. But the 8 applications that we have on file were all filed before the August 1st. So potentially they wouldn't have been subject to anything. They are subject to the 10%. And then that rolls up to 15% in another year to sort of match the citywide ordinance. So as projects go in, they will have the 15% inclusionary. 100% affordable projects are always an option too. The city has a separate program to invest in those to help finance them. The county does as well. So right now we have 3 projects sort of in process, and there are 3 kind of being planned throughout the city. There is one application in this area that could be a 100% affordable project that we're looking at as part of this plan area. So, there's nothing that would prevent more affordable units. Right now, this is sort of in line with or slightly better than what the city has citywide.
Okay. And it's up right off, I mean, it just backs right all the way up to the edge of the Guadalupe River. And I know that this is, in the past, has had flood issues. Is this a concern? Is there something that we should be worried about in the future with that? Considering, yeah, there's a giant levee there too, but considering this is kind of a flood area, I mean, I remember it used to flood a lot when I was a little kid, and I mean, it's out where a dump used to be too.
Yeah, so the EIR addresses potential flooding issues, and in addition, anybody who's developing in the area will have to comply with any flood-proofing requirements of the building code.
Okay, and lastly, just out of curiosity, you know, since this is being built closely to a former landfill, just for my knowledge, is there anything about the after effects of people living near landfills? Any studies on that within the environmental impact report that we're going to have?
Yeah.
As examples in past.
So there is a concern about vapors emitted from the landfill,
Yeah,
but
like
they do
methane.
have, the landfill, as far as I know, has a vapor control system.
Okay.
And so the LEA has provided a comment letter, and we'll be responding to that as a part of the final EIR.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Salam.
Hi, so I watched the same presentation, I believe, to the city council, right? You had a study session on the same thing. They were talking about a left turn across the tracks. Do you point out where they're talking about that? Because I'm already seeing two.
So the left turn would be across from Calle del Sol, going left out onto Tasman, or left going in from Tasman northbound into Calle del Sol.
Okay, I have a few questions. If I look at the packet, it says, the vision set forth in the Tasmania specific plan is to create a new high-density 5 to 8 stories residential neighborhood in Santa Clara focused on an inviting streetscape and urban amenities. That doesn't seem consistent with the new sort of zoning that we're looking at, which is 80 to 350 units per acre. And I don't believe that even 140 units will give the developers enough incentive to go into type 1 construction. I think we need to be 12 stories and higher to make it really affordable. And I guess I would love to see some towers here. And I don't see enough incentives because in my mind, the higher the tower, the more open space I get. So then the other question is, there was some mention of an urban school of up to 600 kids. I didn't see any discussion of that. And then it seems like the affordable housing is only targeting for 100% AMI. And I really want to see us try to meet our RENA numbers of the very low and extremely low, so 30% and 50%. So I'm wondering how we can fit some of those units into this. Finally, well, I actually have a lot of them. Will the Greenways be covered by a community's facilities district? And who's going to manage the maintenance of that? And then I guess I would like to see some requirement in this area plan of more bicycle parking than is recommended by VTA. VTA recommends 1 bike spot per 3 units. My goal is to get to 1 to 1, which is what Mountain View is requiring. So if we could somehow make that a requirement of all these developments, it would be very nice. So maybe you could respond to some of those questions.
Sure.
I guess we'll start with the heights.
Yeah, so height limits within Tasman East are up to 220 feet, and the requirements of the zoning, or the proposed zoning district, includes density that would be consistent with that. That we're trying to allow height and profit from it by allowing density also. So that's the reason for that relatively big spread in terms of density between 85, which is the top end of type 5 construction, and 350, which is what we think a tower might be at in terms of density. As far as no discussion of the school, we will highlight that as a part of the presentation for the Planning Commission next month. But just briefly, the EIR does analyze an up to 600 child school within the Tasman East area, but no land has been set aside for it. It's really up to the school district to make a case that they should be there and that they have a way of partnering with either a developer or providing their own land for it. At this point in time, the studies that we've seen, very honestly, don't provide a nexus for requiring land for a school.
But there is some nexus for a grocery store, 25,000 square feet.
That's in the plan. I'm not sure that you would call it a nexus. That's a desire on the part of the city to include include a grocery store, but it's not a nexus in the same way that a nexus for a school would be established, where we would require it.
See. How about 30% AMI?
That's something that we'd have to talk over with our housing department, and I'm just going to pass it over to Andrew.
The 100% AMI that you see mirrors what's in the citywide ordinance, and as you're familiar with, that went through a process, a negotiated process. There were certainly folks that advocated for something like 80% AMI as a standard, and I think the city might look at that in the future when we're ready to take a next step. But at this point, this is consistent sort of with what the city policy is, and that we're, for inclusionary units, focused on, saying it's an average of 100%. There may be there's ability to go up to 120 if it's accompanied by the 80%, but that's where that is. And as you're probably aware, if you get into the deeper affordable levels, it's really better typically to have sort of 100% affordable project where there's extra services being provided and management that goes along with that. So, it's relatively seamless for a developer to integrate some of the moderate income units into their projects in a way that meets the need and is efficient.
Okay, and then the Communities Facilities District, and then we'll go to the public.
The city's open to a community facilities district. We're doing it for Lawrence Station, for the enhanced improvements that are a part of the Lawrence Station plan. We're still in discussions about it, but yeah, it's important to help create a positive environment by having really top-notch maintenance. So a CFD might be a part of that.
Okay. I think we'll go to the public now, since we have 10 minutes left. I think I have one card, Jan Hintermeister.
Great, thank you. I'm Jan Hintermeister. I'm a resident of Santa Clara. And I wanted to quickly mention two things. I did see that there were some library facilities included as part of the specific plan. And I think that's really important in any of our major projects, to make sure that residents, especially in these big housing areas, are going to have room for the services that are required, including library services. So that's great. I'm a member of the Board of Library Trustees, so that's something we're definitely interested in. But the other issue I wanted to mention was bird safe design. You have received a letter from the Audubon Society. We have a little bit of experience with bird safe design. The City Place project included some guidelines, which I sort of assumed, but I haven't looked. I assume they were carried over into this EIR. And the Audubon Society has made some specific recommendations for improving those guidelines, which would be excellent for you to consider. Bird safe design is something that we've really learned a lot about in the last few years, nationally and internationally. And I've worked in many, many office buildings. This is housing, but there are some of the similar considerations when you have atriums and open areas, of trying to design so that you don't become a bird magnet. Most of the office buildings I worked in over the years were just fine, but I worked in one that was really awful for a variety of reasons. And you do not want to put either residents or workers in a situation where you're finding dead birds in the morning, you're hearing little thumps as you're eating or having a meeting or whatever. So I think consideration of bird-safe design guidelines is really important. So I think that really needs to be looked at carefully. The Audubon Society also suggests some guidelines for landscaping and transitioning, say, from Ulistack into this project. I think that's really interesting too. I mean, Ulistack is doing a lot of restoration of oaks, which would be appropriate on some landscaping type features. I know the letter from Audubon also mentioned willows, which were predominantly used in the mitigation pond that's right south of Tasman. And that's, if there's swales or, you want to have landscape experts look at that. But it would be really great to be able to do some kind of reasonable transition from the natural area at Ulistack into the city, into this development, and into what we're going to include in City Place as well. So I really wanted to endorse the recommendations of the Audubon Society. And Audubon Society has been a great partner for other major developers and companies like Google and Facebook. And they're pretty knowledgeable. They've had a lot of experience setting up guidelines for different cities, including Sunnyvale and Cupertino. So they would make a very good partner in just kind of talking about potential design issues with respect to making buildings safer for birds and other wildlife. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to make a public comment, come forward. Okay, seeing none, I think Commissioner Kelly had a question earlier. Nope. Okay, Commissioner Ikezi, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Affordable housing, this is not directly related to Tasman East, but some of the other bigger projects we've seen, the developer has offered to create affordable housing, but not on the site that they're developing, somewhere off-site. Do you anticipate something like that happening with this? And I'm talking about Irvine in particular. Have they identified the affordable housing off-site to date? Because last time I heard it wasn't identified.
So we don't have anything formally yet resolved with Irvine. We're still working with them actively on how to solve that, but we will make sure that we comply with the requirements of the permit, and that Irvine complies with the requirements of their permits for their affordable housing, whether it's on-site or off-site. They have two options in that regard. So we're working with them, and when we have a solution, we'll bring that forward, but it's not been determined as of yet. But it's something we're very aware of and paying attention to. And then in the case of this particular development area, the intent is that the inclusionary requirement, the 10%, that would all be met within this project area. This is a very appropriate place for low-income units, or because of the access to transit and jobs and so forth. So we really want to retain them in this area and not do it off-site at some other location.
Thank you. And what I'm hearing about this specific plan is that Planning Commission is going to be reviewing the specific plan in about a month, right? And then once it's approved, then the specific building design will be referred to Architectural Committee. Is that what I'm hearing? So that part is similar to like how Related's project is being handled.
It really follows the model of Lawrence Station area as well. I mean, with Lawrence Station area, there were some projects that came through at the same time.
That's right. Yeah, I
so
remember.
You saw them, but subsequent projects have gone through just the Architectural Review Committee. We're essentially creating a zoning district that has the uses that align with the plan permitted by right. New construction still needs a review process.
Okay, so our chair raised questions about what type of construction are we going to have and how are we going to ensure that we have enough density and high-rise construction to make sure that we get to the maximum density level that we want. But that review is going to be left to the architectural committee. Is that what I'm hearing?
So, right, so the question is like, is someone going to be monitoring, are we on pace to achieve the overall density? Staff would certainly pay attention to that and could make recommendations if that turns out to be an issue. What we've seen with the applications that are on file, and if some of them, represent maybe more, they're not immediate, but they're all actively working through the design process and moving forward, is a mix of construction types. We do have type 5, we do have type 3, we have I believe, type 1 type construction represented in these different projects. So we're seeing, if you sort of think of the different density ranges, under 120, between 120 and 40, and over 140, we have projects in all three of those bands. So we really are getting a mix of densities, a mix of construction types, and overall, you've got about 75% of the units that we're looking for, and the 26 acres is about 70% of the net site area. So we're really tracking pretty close to actually achieving the 4,500 units, at least just looking at the applications that have been submitted so far.
Okay, but this body is not going to be reviewing the actual density level. We're not going to get to see that as part of the specific plan review. Is that
right? So the Planning Commission would not normally be reviewing the specific projects unless they're on appeal brought to the Planning Commission. But they would go through the regular architectural review process. So what's in place in the plan itself are the minimum densities, and the Planning Commission is has the opportunity to be reviewing those minimum densities in the specific plan and the other policies to see if they are adequate. But there's intended to be some flexibility as development occurs as well.
So when we review the specific plan, we can ask for specific minimum density levels.
Right, they are proposed in the plan, so you'll be looking at what's been proposed in terms of minimum densities.
Okay, all right. Those are my questions. Thank you. Oh, and
So
my request is that we have a more full, maybe a visual representation of how the traffic will flow between the two developments, Related and the Tasman East, so that, I asked a bunch of questions, and if we can see it, then we won't have to go through the same questions again. So I'd appreciate that if you could do that. Thank you.
So we have time for one quick question from Commissioner Chahal.
So that was on the same, following up on affordability housing. So this being a specific plan, we don't need to lower our affordability housing percentage, right? We can dictate it according to our new affordability housing ordinance.
Right.
Right, but we are reducing it. I'm not sure why we are doing that when we know that we need more affordable housing in the city. Then why we are lowering those standards for this specific plan when we have room to include more affordability housing on this one?
Well, just to clarify a little bit, the plan both raises it in some ways and lowers it in some other, you could say, right? So just as noted earlier, 8 of these applications came in technically not subject to any affordability requirement because they were filed before that date. They have, by being subject to the plan, though, they would be subject to a 10% inclusionary requirement up to the density of 120 DU per acre, and then it scales down a little bit to 8% and 5% eventually. That also, projects that come in for the next year would be subject to the same, so that there's a 1-year sort of extension that was granted, and that relates to the fact that the plan is not yet adopted. It was sort of developed more recently, so applicants, property owners, developers needed a little more time perhaps to prepare an application as it was coming up right on that deadline under the old set of rules. So there was some allowance provided there. But ultimately, it's the same, the plan phases up to the 15% in another year. It would be the same as citywide. And really, we're gaining more than what would technically be required, significantly more than what would be technically required in these 8 initial applications, which appear to represent a majority of the units that would get built in the plan area.
But my question is, when we are giving them so high density as a specific plan, why aren't we sticking to the same percentage of affordability housing on that? That's my question. Like, it's a specific plan. That's the reason we are giving them very high density dwelling unit, 120 dwelling units per acre, right? So we should correspondingly include more affordability housing too, because it's give and take. Like, oh, they are getting much more density than what is required as per our regular general plan. So we can always bargain to have more affordability housing on that. That's my question. Like, why aren't we doing that?
So I think it's the reverse. We're trying to push them into type 1 construction. So we're giving them a break on affordable housing to get them into the type 1, the more expensive steel construction.
You know, the Cupertino plan, the builder was ready to give as per the state guidelines, whatever they wanted to build.
Yeah.
So we should assume they are still profitable. It's not that we are giving them a margin of error. Oh, okay, that's not profitable, that's why reducing the affordability. But that's not the case. The Cupertino development has clearly shown they are ready to do it for their sake, but we are not asking for it. That's my question. We should ask for more of it. Yeah, that's the state guideline is 50%. And they were ready to do it 50%.
Okay.
And here we are not even, we reduced from 15 to 10.
So we need to close this study session. So I'm going to close the study session. And so I now call to order the Planning Commission meeting of September 26, 2018. Okay. Actually, we want a roll call first. Secretary Becker, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Commissioner Salome? Here. Vice Chair Chahal? Here. Commissioner Kaikezi?
Present.
Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Chair Jane?
Here.
And Secretary Becker here.
Okay, so we don't have any absent members, so we don't have to take a vote to excuse. Now we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, please remain standing. Secretary Becker, will you read the statement of values?
Yes. As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and the will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Okay, you can be seated. Okay, so the hearing procedures are as follows. Public hearings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the commission directs all activity during the hearings. All comments shall be addressed to the commission. Any items on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent hearing. Applicants will be allotted up to 10 minutes to present and justify proposals following staff presentation of the item. Other speakers will be given up to 4 minutes. The applicant is allotted up to 5 minutes of rebuttal of comments. No additional comments will be accepted upon the close of the public hearing, although Commission reserves the right to direct questions to any speaker on any matter. Special procedure time limits may be applied as prescribed by the chair, and appeals to our commission actions must be filed in writing within 7 calendar days. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available from the Planning Division Office on the Friday afternoon preceding the meeting and available online. Printed copies are available on the table near the entrance to the chambers. Are there any requests by the applicants, public, or the commission for continuance or exception on any of the items on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the consent calendar. The procedure for the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted, approved, or adopted by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. If any member of the architectural committee, staff, the applicant, or a member of the public wishes to comment on a consent calendar item or would like the item to be heard on the regular agenda, please notify planning staff or request this action at the Planning Commission meeting during the consent calendar review. Items listed on the consent calendar with the associated file numbers constitute public hearing items. Secretary Becker, will you please read the consent calendar for the record?
Yes, the consent calendar tonight has 1.A 18-1264, the Planning Commission minutes of August 8th, 2018. 1.B 18-1265, the Planning Commission minutes of August 22nd, 2018. 1.C 18-1143, action on use permit for ABC license type 41 at 2047 El Camino Real. 1.D, which is 18-206, action on a variance to allow an addition to a single-family residence with a non-conforming garage at 741 Enright Avenue. And then we have 1.E, which is 18-1213, action on use permit to allow outdoor play area for a new child daycare facility at 1190 Benton Street.
Would any member of the public or commission like to pull any items?
I would like to pull item 1A, I was absent on that day, and 1C, I will not be participating in that.
Just
Any
to
other
clarify, are you
items?
pulling or are you
No, I don't
abstaining?
want to, sorry, I don't want to pull it, but I'll abstain on those two.
Oh,
1A,
you're
1C,
abstaining
sorry.
on those. Okay. Would anyone like to pull any
I
items?
have a quick
We
comment
don't,
on one.
yeah, we don't need to,
1A and 1C.
okay, so I'm sorry, we will not need to pull those items. You can just, and when the vote takes, you would just abstain.
Abstain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment on 1C.
Okay, so we're pulling C, and I would like to pull item 1E. So the balance of the consent calendar is 1A, 1B, and 1D. Do we have any motions?
A motion to approve those items.
Second.
So it was moved by Commissioner Casey and seconded by Commissioner Kelly. It was to approve items 1A, B, and D. A, B, and D. Like,
With Commissioner Shahal abstaining from item 1A,
1A.
C.
yes.
which we haven't voted on yet.
So, okay, please vote on your iPad, please.
So it's showing up, but how do I vote? Because I have two votes. I will vote yes and abstain on one.
There's more yeses than abstains. I'd vote yes.
Yes, but you know abstain, right?
We have noted it for the record.
Okay, you noted the abstain, right? Okay. Oh.
Okay. Everyone voted? Okay. Motion passes. Okay, so item 1C.
The general conditions, we always require a full menu always be served, even though this is a restaurant that's asking for alcohol permits. I just wanted to note that.
You wanted to confirm that they are serving food?
Yeah, we always have that, so I didn't see it.
Well, the type of license actually requires food service, so it's specifically for restaurants.
I see.
So it does require it
Then-
under the ABC license.
Never mind my comment, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so there was one change to this item, and that was that the hours of operation go until 9 p.m. And alcohol, if somebody arrives at just before 9, let's say at 8:59, they will be served their meal, and they can get alcohol with their meal, but after 10 o'clock, they will not be allowed to be served alcohol. Is that correct?
I would say if they are a customer that has ordered food and they are dining there before the actual business hours close, they would be allowed to be served alcohol while they're staying there. But we had talked about via email about extending those hours to 10 p.m. just to serve the alcohol, but the restaurant closes at 9, so we can make that stipulation in the conditions.
Seems reasonable to me. Then the other thing was that I frequent this mall often, and I noticed there are no bike racks at this mall, and this is what's known as an intensification of use. So maybe we could ask the applicant if he or she is here to see if maybe a bike rack could be added.
Okay, so if I can just mention that it's still a restaurant. It's just like as if we're having 5 people rent a single-family house. It's still considered a single-family use. And under the regulations, that a Public Works Department does not condition projects of beer and wine licenses to have bike racks. It's not considered an intensification, but if you would like to ask them to do that, or if you want to condition the project, it would not be something that would be directed by our Public Works Department or follow VTA guidelines. It would just be outside of that, just so you understand what your request, if you want to ask them to install some bike racks.
Is the applicant here?
These should be here, yes.
Okay. Sir, we've done this on many projects in the past when people have asked for alcohol licenses to just ask for a bike rack to be installed. Would that be possible? Okay, thank you.
And I just want to clarify, is that on private property or public property? Because the ones on public property, we have a certain standard and they are fairly costly. So if they put it on site, on the private property, it would be a lot less expensive and they can take care of it.
That's what I would like.
Okay, so on private property.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Wait, we'll get the consent from the landlord because obviously if we do the bike rack on the common area property, then we'll probably have to get the consent for approval on that. But we will definitely accommodate that for the.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Motion to approve 1C.
Okay.
Okay. It was moved by Commissioner Casey, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. So let's take a vote.
Would that be as amended with the condition for a bike rack?
Pardon?
That would be amended with the condition for a bike rack.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. Do I need to modify my motion?
And the other part was to clarify the extending the alcohol serving to 10 p.m. To allow diners during the business hours.
I'd like to restate my motion. Motion to approve item 1C with extending the alcohol permit to 10 p.m. and that the applicant add a bike rack to the private portion of the property.
Second.
Okay. Do we have a vote here? I don't see.
Could you wait for the motion to be posted on the screen before we vote?
Okay.
All right, so that motion's on the screen.
Please vote on your screen. Okay, passes. Thank you. Okay, I had pulled item 1E. This is the action on a use permit to allow outdoor play area for a new child daycare facility at 1190 Benton Street. And I had asked Gloria about whether I have to recuse myself from this.
Yes, and I did run, basically, the limitation is if you're within 500 feet radius, and I did run the radius for you as a verification and confirm both by address and by parcel number, and you are well outside of that, that boundary.
Good. So my question is that This facility is right next to the Prometheus Apartments, the Park Central Apartments, and there's going to be kids outside. It's an outdoor play area screaming. Is that going to be a noise issue for the people living in the Prometheus Apartments?
Of course, the children will make noise, but under the state law and the community care licensing that regulates daycare facilities, the noise was addressed in state law that it can't be considered something that's monitored or regulated, because that's just the nature of children and their activities. So it just goes with the territory, essentially. So you have to consider that in your land use decision, that they will, be making noise.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion to approve 1E.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Casey. Oh, do we have? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see any. Okay, I didn't see any cards on that, but Mr. Delosier, just come forward.
Just to clarify, if we're taking public testimony, we need to hear from the applicant first.
Oh, okay.
So first, ask the applicant whether or not he wishes to speak. If he doesn't, then we can go directly to him.
Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation on this topic?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay. Mr. Delosier, would you like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Dave Delosier. I own the building at 1270 Benton Street, 1270, 1260, 1280, 1290. I have no problem with child daycare, and I have no problem with the outdoor playground, as long as they address the parking. I've read the use permit, and it says that they will be retaining 20 of the parking spaces. They have 14 staff, though, and so that leaves 6 for drop-off and or any other special people that they may bring in from time to time. I'm concerned that the parking lot across the street, which the merchants, building owners like myself, paid for, and we are part of a parking assessment for that, and that's for our clientele and not for their clientele, unless they want to join in the parking assessment district, which I don't think that they can. So my concern is 6 o'clock. The morning time is not the issue. The 6 o'clock p.m. pickup, I don't know how many of you have tried to go to the Franklin Square and find a parking place at 6 p.m. With the restaurants and the bars and the other things that we have there. It's pretty full. So I'd like that to be addressed and made sure that it's addressed in the use permit. And I'd also like to see a 1-year review. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, motion to close public comments.
Do you want to ask the applicant for a rebuttal?
Well, I'll ask you after. You can, would the applicant like to rebut? Yes. Sorry.
Hello. So the hours of operation in a schedule provided, the daycare will close at 6 p.m., so it shouldn't affect the businesses. And we'd like to maintain a mutual relationship, it goes both ways, and we want to make sure we respect that. And the staff's all allocated for parking spaces, and drop off and pickup should be quick and easy and cleaned up shortly after 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public would like to speak on this? Okay, motion to close public.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Do we have?
You can just voice vote that.
Just voice vote on that? Okay.
Just to close the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All opposed? Any opposed? No? Okay, passes. So I would like to ask staff, what are the rules for how many parking spots are required for a daycare?
The parking requirement is 1 parking space per classroom and then 1 parking space per office. So based on the floor plan, it's a total of 9 parking spaces. And even with the outdoor space, they're still providing 20. So they far exceed the requirement.
Okay. I guess if that's the city rules. Okay. We have some commissioners want to speak on this. Commissioner Chahal.
So can we request the applicant to proactively protect the parking spaces as per Mr. Delosier mentioning, so that you put notices for your parents that you cannot park in this particular area and you can only park within the school areas? And as mentioned by Mr. Delosier, if we can review this after a year, if there are no complaints, it goes through anyway. And if there are complaints, we can address those at that time. I would like to add that 1-year review to that.
Commissioner Kelly.
Just a quick question. So I assume staff will verify there's a drop-off area, because typically in the daycares, the drop-off area may or may not be defined. Are we going to make sure it's a defined area?
They are supposed to drop off on site, so not park on the street. And especially, there's actually state law about the age of the children and that they have to be escorted in, so by the parents. So certainly, when the children are being signed up for the daycare, we can provide both informational, or require the applicant to provide an informational handout to actually use the parking spaces on site, and also for the pickup and drop-offs. So that's basically to each of the clients, so they understand that. But they just basically pull into a parking space is what the operational statement includes.
Okay, and then can we ask for a 1-year review on the status of the parking?
You could, just to let you know, it would just be an informational issue. We can't keep unless you want to just limit the approval to a 1 year and have it expire, and then it would have to be renewed at that point. Otherwise, you could not change the conditions. You could certainly just, talk to the applicants about if there's any problem that could be proactively corrected in that 1 year.
Thank you.
So we do 1-year review for alcohol licenses, and if there are police complaints, then we terminate the use permit. It seems like this would be similar to that. If we find that the parents are parking in the lot that Mr. Delosier is involved with, then we could revoke their conditional use. We could tell them that they can't have 14 parking spots for staff, that they have to provide bus passes or whatever. Is there any mechanism for doing that after a 1-year review?
The use permits have a standard revocation process, and that's in our zoning code, but it is a formal process that requires multiple steps. And so one would be that you would take this informational item, and then you would review the content and see whether or not it warrants basically revocation. And at that point, you would have to initiate revocation, and that would go through the public hearing process. Then after that initiation, the applicants have a voluntary period to reconcile any deficiencies. After that, then if you feel like it hasn't been met, then the revocation hearing is set. So then of course it's a public hearing at that point as well, decisions made, and then that action can be appealed.
So that seems all fine to me, to have a revocation, but I would like to see a 1-year review, and then
you can do that.
Based on the results of that review, we can initiate a revocation if there are gross violations.
I would suggest adding some controls instead of defaulting to that, because it is kind of a lengthy process and it isn't the most friendly, as to basically that they provide basically a drop-off and pickup, verification to staff prior to making the improvements or starting operations, and also what information they will give to the parents or the guardians that are dropping off the children, and then some type of form of monitoring that the clientele is parking on site, and then reporting that to us, and then we can have the one-year review.
Seems fine to me.
Okay, I make a motion to approve 1E with the condition that the applicant give parents in writing about the parking requirements. There be 1-year review of whether the applicant has complied with communicating with parents, and what else?
Not parking into the other lot.
Right, right. I mean, communicating to parents about, not parking in the other lots. Would that,
Okay.
would that do? Okay. Right.
Any seconds? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Chahal had a question.
So just a quick question. We put a 1-year review, but any neighbor can have his grievance addressed even before that, right? It's not that
Yes.
they have to wait for 1 full year.
Absolutely.
So they can be reviewed even after 2 months or 3 months, right?
Yes,
Okay.
our code enforcement division receives complaints, and they actually do investigate whether or not terms of conditional uses are being adhered to. So they would be our first line of defense, essentially. So we can include that information in the conditions as well. If any complaints are received, they would contact our code enforcement division phone number. So Mr. Delosier would have that line as well, just conveniently as part of the conditions of approval.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Xander, are we supposed to be reading off the resolutions for these?
Well, it's the consent calendar, and Commissioner Becker already read all the titles, so you're fine as far as Brown Act compliance. But to be formal, yes, let's read off the resolution title.
So the resolution is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Clara, California, approving a conditional use permit to allow an outdoor activity associated with a new child daycare facility in a downtown commercial CD zoning district at 1190 Benton Street, Santa Clara, California. And with the conditions that Commissioner Casey had provided, that notice be given to employees, and that we have a 1-year review.
So I'm going to ask the recording secretary if you can add in addition to the parking, that it would be an informational handout regarding drop-offs and pickups. Oh, okay. So we'll just note it for the record. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Second by Calle.
And it was to provide in writing restrictions of parking across the street to parents and staff. Okay. All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Becker.
Commissioner Kelly or second?
Oh.
Yeah, he's already done.
Commissioner Kelly seconded, sorry. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait for the...
Oh, we
doing
have
it
to
with
vote
the
this
mission?
way. Sorry.
Back to the Stone Age.
iPads, please.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, so just to mention that all the consent items that were approved are final unless there's an appeal within 7 days from this date with the planning department.
Okay, are there any public presentations of items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, do we have to vote to close these? Okay, so is there a motion to close public hearings?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now we're on to public hearing items. Secretary Becker, will you read the item, please?
Yes, we have agenda item 2, which is 18-961, the public hearing action on a conditional use permit for Planet Granite to allow a climbing gym and a outdoor workout area located at 801 Martin Avenue. The recommendation is 1, adopt a resolution to approve a use permit to allow a climbing gym and a outdoor workout area located at 801 Martin Avenue, subject to conditions of approval.
Okay, staff, you have a presentation?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Assistant Planner 1, Steve Lee here. The application is before you is a use permit to allow a climbing gym for Planet Granite in an existing 29,120 square foot tenant space and a new 3,736 square foot outdoor workout area at 801 Martin. This is a 9.64 acre property here at the northeast corner of Martin Avenue and Lafayette Street. So just for reference, it's just across the street from Martin from the Home Depot site. The property is zoned MH, or heavy industrial, and that is why they're requesting for a use permit, as recreational is not a permitted use by right under the heavy industrial zoning district. This current site was occupied by a fitness gym before in the past, from 1999 to 2013, by Club One Fitness, but it's vacated since 2013, so the use permit expired. And this is a new use permit for Planet Granite. So here, oh, that was the site. And this is the frontage here on the, site plan. There are 2 buildings on the site. There's the horizontal one just immediately from the corner, the northeast corner of Lafayette and Martin, and then there's the vertical one. This tenant space is going to occupy the vertical industrial office. Both buildings are used as industrial office at this time. That's the frontage from Martin, looking at the site. Site plan here in blue is the 29,000 square foot gym, and then the 3,736 square foot of the workout area is going to take up the existing 10 parking spaces for this, and there will be a fence around that area. It will be all open. Here's the elevations. Minimal to no changes to the elevations. All you see is going to be the new fencing around the workout area and the sign on the wall, and that's not part of this application. So they will submit that later to us. Okay, just a parking analysis here. The parking required for the site for this proposed use is 165 parking spaces based on the 1 per 200 square feet parking ratio for fitness use. And the remaining office in the 2 buildings is 248 spaces required based on the 1 per 300 parking ratio. And that's a total required of 413. And they will have 435 after losing the 12 outdoor spaces to create the outdoor workout area. They will also include 16 clean air parking spaces, 5 new secure bicycle parking inside the facility, and 16 new bicycle racks outside. This proposed use is consistent with the general plan. It encourages the provisions of a service and amenity for the greater area, and in turn reducing vehicles miles travel. It's pursuant to the zoning code, the plan commissions can approve this conditional use if it's not detrimental to the adjacent properties and industrial area. And CEQA clearance here is just an existing facility, just converting the space, and the outdoor use is expansion no more than 10,000 square feet. So staff recommendations to adopt the resolutions and approve the use permit to allow the climbing gym and outdoor workout area for the 801 Martin Avenue, subject to conditions of approval. That concludes staff presentations. The applicant has the presentations before you as well. So I can answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions by commission members? I have a question. You had said that this area was zoned to not be for recreational, and I don't see that we're rezoning it. I think we're just approving a conditional use permit.
Yes, correct.
Is that okay to do? You don't have to rezone it to allow that use? Okay, no. Okay.
Yeah.
It is enumerated as a conditional use in the zoning district.
Okay, okay, it is.
Just to clarify, yeah, this comes up in industrial areas a lot. We have what I like to call the bingo exception. Uses that are not permitted by right, but that are appropriate for an industrial area, such as lodges and bingo halls, can be conditionally permitted in the MH zoning district. And we've used that to allow a variety of assembly-type uses in industrial areas, including athletic facilities.
Yeah, I sort of expected that because it used to be a workout facility anyway, but, okay. Seeing no other questions by commissioners, is there one by Commissioner Becker? No, okay. We have some comment cards from the public. Oh, wait, we have the applicant will present, yes.
Good evening. My name's Mickey Lloyd. I'm the founder of Planet Granite. And there's a wonderful circularity to being here. 25 years ago, I got a conditional use permit to open the first of our gyms in Santa Clara on Meade Avenue. And we closed that facility a dozen years ago and moved it over to Sunnyvale. And we're delighted to now be coming back home to where we began in Santa Clara. Planet Granite is primarily a rock climbing facility, but we also offer free weights and yoga. We're a very community-based facility. We have an awful lot of people who come and who connect at the facility, and it is a place that really is a home from home. And we have a number of people, I think, who've come today in support of that to try to show what it is we represent. And we're very different from a typical health club in that regard. We're a meeting spot for people who share a common interest. You can see a picture up there of one of our facilities. And we offer in them climbing, as I said, yoga, weights, and we have a small retail area, though that's ancillary, very small in terms of the scale of it, just a few hundred square feet. The floor plate is shown there, and what you see with all the squiggly lines in the middle are these three-dimensional climbing structures, and people come to climb, and it's not only a healthy thing, but it is something that's kind of an intellectual exercise in that the holds are configured like choreography to promote a certain set of moves to climb up the surface. And so you have to think your way through it. And that's one of the things that's wonderful about it and different from a typical health club. Once you've had a go at climbing, then you tend to sit down and hang with your friends for a couple of minutes while you recover, and then you get back on and climb again. There's a model just showing you what the three-dimensional structures will look like in there. These are the climbing structures. They're 15 feet tall. And this shows where we are now. We have 2 brands, and we have currently 11 facilities open and 3 in the works. So we're a growing company and very excited to be bringing climbing to a wider and wider section of the public. We're a company that for 10 years now has given 1% of its revenue to charitable causes, and we give that money to big city mountaineers, we give it to climbing access groups, we give it to environmental traveling companions, the Sharma Fund. Most of these are entities that take kids who, particularly from disadvantaged situations, and take them climbing, whether inside or on outdoor expeditions. It's rather like Outward Bound, and they're like Outward Bound, and we provide financing for them. We also provide for pretty much any not-for-profit group. They can come and bring their kids in for free to our facilities. We think it's a really important part of of our responsibility to the community to provide access to folks who can't afford to come on their own. We have a number of people who've come today, and I, out of respect of the commission, so that we don't spend too much of your time, we've asked them not to speak unless there's people who are critical of the project, and then we ask them to rebut that. But if I could ask folks to stand up who've come in support of this. And thank you for coming, and I hope this gives a sense of how connected we are to the folks who are part of our community. Thank you for coming. That's all I have to say. Do you have any questions that I can help with?
Do you have people belaying the people down, or is it automatic, or how does the safety work? I'm just curious.
Sure. We have two different types of climbing, and one of them is called bouldering, and it's only 15 feet tall. And there's a 15-inch thick rubber pad or foam pad at the bottom. And in those facilities, you don't need ropes. And then we have other facilities that are much taller, and there you do need ropes. This facility is a bouldering-only facility, so there'll be no ropes. In Sunnyvale, we have a facility that's 60 feet tall, and it's a real good idea to have a rope there.
Thank you. Okay, so I think Commissioner Casey had a question for the applicant.
A couple quick questions. This Santa Clara new facility, what is the size like in relation to your Sunnyvale facility? I've seen it; it's pretty big.
It's pretty much the same square footage of floor plate, but obviously a lot shorter.
And approximately how many members do you project, or?
We'll have a few thousand members. Obviously, wow. they come at different times, not all at one day. I think an average day we would expect about 750 people to check in.
And so is it the site-specific membership, or are they allowed to go to different locations?
Oh, no, you can go to any of our facilities.
And when are you planning to open?
I think it would be in the middle of next year. It'll take a little bit of time to get plans prepared and pass through the city and then to build it. So summer, fall of next year.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'd like to open it up to the public. Sorry. Oh, there I see. Okay, Commissioner Salim.
So have you got any plans to expand in the future to possibly go to the taller climbing areas, punch through the roof, so to speak, and provide some towers that they could go higher?
Not in this facility. It just doesn't lend itself to that. We'd have loved to have found a building that would, but we didn't find one.
Okay. Commissioner Chahal. Okay.
I just have a comment. I'm so happy that instead of opening some video game shops, you're opening something which is really healthy.
Thank you.
And that too in an urban area. And so I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
Not sure I'm able to climb or not, but I'm excited.
Yeah, come and try.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Okay. I know not very many people are going to speak. Can I see a show of hands of how many people do want to speak? I see 3 cards here. Okay, so I will give whoever wants to speak 4 minutes, which is our normal time. So can I have Dave?
It's 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Dave will be speaking on behalf of the project, and if there's nobody objecting to the project, then we don't want to waste your time. So maybe, he's happy to talk, but we don't want to waste your time.
I don't think we could take 2 votes. I think
okay.
You're supposed to let you talk, so.
Well, my name's Dave Geisberger, and I'll be very brief then, since there don't seem to be objections to this. But I worked for Planet Granite 20 some odd years ago and continue to be a member and have been with them as they've grown with the community and also helped the community. And I want to echo a lot of what Mickey said about working with a lot of the youth in the community, because when I was there, and I still continue to see it now, there's a lot of youth groups that are able to come through and work with the local kids that are at risk. And need a little extra attention. And I could go on for quite a while, but I don't think I necessarily need to. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I have Karina. Does Mickey want to come back up and speak? No, okay. I guess I have Karina Salinger. Do you want to speak? Okay.
My name is Karina Salinger, and I came because I work with children who have special needs, and the climbing gym in Sunnyvale has been extremely supportive. And there's very few resources in the community other than clinics to take the children to. There's open parks, but none of the climbing in parks offers the same type of climbing. And we lost another gym in the community called We Rock the Spectrum, which is where we used to take kids. So I'm really happy they're opening a new facility, and I'm really grateful for their support.
Okay, anybody else want to come up? Okay, a motion to close public hearing? Oh,
I'll motion.
second. That was Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Kelly, I think. Okay. All right. All in favor of closing public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we have some commissioners who have questions. Oh, do they want to do the vote? No, I didn't think so. Yeah. Okay, so we have Commissioner Chahal, Becker, Ikazi. So Commissioner Chahal, you have questions? Oh, you're on the list here. Okay. All right, Commissioner Becker.
Oh, this is just questions, or are we going
Questions,
to?
yeah. Questions, I guess.
Just questions?
Or you can make any comments you want about
Oh, okay,
your
comments,
vote
okay.
or whatever.
Gotta say welcome back to Santa Clara, and I hope you guys stay here a while. I've been up to the San Francisco one, up in the Presidio. Really nice place. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad to see you guys down here, back here again, actually. It's actually something to do. It's keeping people active, and it's keeping the youth out of trouble, which is a really key thing. And I've heard nothing but really good things from you guys, and one thing I would like to recommend would probably be maybe some more secure bike spaces. Some more secure bike spaces would be a major influence. But at the same time, I would like to, state my position. I would like to make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
And we should all go, by the way.
Next, we have Commissioner Kezi.
Yes, I'm really happy to hear about your support of children and young people who want to try your facility. So Commissioner Chahal and I volunteer for an organization that's involved in youth international exchange. So if we want to bring our students to your facility, we can just contact you then? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. I guess any other comments by anybody? Okay. Well,
then I can second.
I think this is a great opportunity for our community. So, all right. We'll go to a vote. We can do this electronically. Okay, so here's the resolution. The resolution, it's a recommendation to council. Is that this one? No, okay. It's a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Clara approving the use permit to allow a climbing gym and outdoor workout area for the property located at 801 Martin Avenue, Santa Clara. All in favor?
Oh, and just for the record, it was Commissioner Becker that made the motion and Commissioner Salem who seconded very on the sly there.
And we...
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
We can just wait for the motion to appear before the vote. So you can vote at this point?
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we move on to reports of commission, board, liaison, and committees. Okay, so do we have any announcements? Any announcements?
Yes, hi, Chair Jane, it's just you have your budget status and the current total available on the dais for you. And the other item we wanted just to bring to your attention that we will be bringing forward the 2019 proposed meeting dates for the Planning Commission. And we just wanted to informally ask you if there was interest on the planning commissioners to perhaps change the start time to 6 p.m. If there is interest, we would bring the calendar of dates along with the new start time, and that would be incorporated into the city calendar. Or it could be up for further discussion at the next meeting.
So we're not taking action now. We're just
no, this is just to
taking some
gauge,
discussion.
if there's interest, if you'd like us, we will bring that item back to change the start time to an earlier time.
Is this something that we need the public to weigh in? Because some public members may not be able to get here at 6.
It's really up to the commission.
Is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone have any comments about that?
7.
I don't know. View speakers. Yeah, Commissioner Casey.
I think that's a great idea, and I will make every effort to make it here. I don't anticipate any issue getting here at 6, and I think it's going to be less burden to our staff. I mean, they already spend so much time here, so whatever we can do to make things easier, I think I'm all for it.
Okay. What about study sessions then? Would those then start at 5?
No, they would normally just start during that regular time frame if we needed the extra time, but this would allow for not having set special meetings too. So it could either be part of the regular agenda.
Okay.
Okay. And we would try to schedule them when there's not a lot of items as well, whenever possible.
Okay. All right, so, Commissioner Kelly.
My staff, I would like to get out of here earlier if possible.
Okay, so Commissioner Chahal.
My only concern is it's good for me and the staff, but my only concern, we have to do a good outreach for the public because public by now is acclimatized to 7 o'clock. And I'm not sure some of these people come from far off in traffic or so. Let's just consider that thing into consideration when we do that. Take a feedback from the public also, if it is possible. I'm not sure what the way we can take a feedback from the public about it.
There would be multiple outlets for announcing that, and it would be on both the city calendar and the event calendar that's online electronically. So we would, yes, have some publicity surrounding the time change.
Okay. As long as we have good outreach and everybody in the public knows that meetings have been moved.
Yes, certainly
from
we have
7
a
to 6.
public information officer now that we could put that information out on Nextdoor, other social platforms that would cover that information and get it out to the public.
Okay, thank you.
So,
okay.
Let me give one comment too, is we've already moved the architectural committee meeting, and I think it's benefited ourselves and the public. Commissioner, and well, Anthony can talk on it for himself, but I think it's been a beneficial change.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's. I think it has helped a lot, especially for us to get out a little bit earlier, and especially for staff. Like Commissioner Chahal and Chair Jane have mentioned, that 7 o'clock. If the public wants to know about it, I think the public should really be weighing in on it. That's my opinion on it. But I do like the 6 o'clock start time if that's possible too.
Okay, very good. So we can't take a vote now. It'll come up.
We will just bring it back to at your next meeting with the calendar of dates and discuss that time frame, and then we can look into the public outreach and notification as well and report that to you.
Okay, very good. Any other announcements or?
I believe that's it in terms of announcements.
I got a question about one of them. When are we going to be doing another planning commissioner to fill that other seat?
Oh, the vacancy?
Yeah, that's like September or October.
We did recently ask about that, and we were not given an immediate timeline, so we can follow up again with you all, but we weren't made aware of when, interviews would be taking place.
Okay.
Okay.
Study session October 30th.
I think we're getting there. I think there were, well, there was supposed to be October 30th, a joint study session with City Council, but that was postponed or canceled, right?
Yes, that's postponed.
Yeah. And then what I have here is October 24th. We're supposed to have Tasman East will come to us, November 14th, Gateway Crossings, and November 28th, a parking study session.
Correct.
But,
I actually have a revised schedule, and we just want to also alert you to a new study session for another project, so I'll hand this out to the commissioners.
And I think Chair Jane mentioned this, although maybe it was a little bit quiet, not everyone heard that. The Gateway Crossings project, which is in the station area plan, and that's Hunter Storms project. It would be supporting basically transit, the TOD project. And because it is a large project and it's been in the pipeline for a couple years, we're looking at scheduling a study session in advance of the actual public hearing so everyone has a good understanding about that project. And we're looking at October 24th at 6 p.m. So we wanted to check your availability, I'm sorry, 5:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. on the 24th of October. But we will send out a notice, via email to you as well.
Okay. So we have any reports from board or committee assignments? I think that was trying to figure out our new planning commissioner. Anything from the architectural committee?
We had a lot of fun with that one.
There was considerable community pushback on one particular development.
On Sycamore? Yeah, on the Sycamore project, yeah.
Okay. Any reports?
Could I ask one question?
Yes.
Since I streamed the entire study session that the City Council saw, which was an exact duplicate of this one, is there any mechanism to combine these study sessions and have a single presentation?
So that's what we'll be doing with you for the El Camino Real study session. And once we kind of officially kick off like the downtown precise plan, because we also don't want to be presenting to the same presentation. We did, recognizing that the council's gotten some more study sessions along the way, we tried to provide not the same exact presentation to you all. I know it may have felt that way, but it was a little bit less granular on the specific issues that the council had been asking about and more about familiarity with the project and the bigger issues for the site. But I think going forward, that is our complete intent, to give you guys combined study sessions whenever possible.
So I have a problem with that, because with all the questions we had, fitting it into 1 hour, and now if you add council to that, we'll each be able to ask one question, which may be a problem. So anyway, any reports of commission travel or training? Okay, so I just wanted to report that I actually attended 2 weeks ago the Digital Government Conference in Sacramento, and just talking about how to use more technology. So a bunch of cities are using this open government data repository, and there's actually a code.ca.gov, which is a government repository for code for how to access all the data that the government has. So just in California, there's the IT market is $11 billion. And California spent $1 billion on electronic health records, trying to streamline it so that your doctor's office and your hospital and everything, you just have one login to get to all of your things, all of your data. So that, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Commissioner Jane, I should just add, because it's relevant to what you're saying, community development is undergoing a permit software program that would allow for a much easier access for the public to look up records by property and sort of a much more useful interface in addition to the actual records being available electronically.
So it's actually kind of crazy because when I go and request a permit, code review to review a permit that I've, the inspection for a permit that I've pulled, the online thing just gives me a date. And then if I want to change it, I have to talk to somebody and get them to change it. There's no way to do that online. It's kind of ridiculous. So I wish that we could make it much easier for people to do all this stuff online without having to, call somebody and be put on hold. So the other interesting thing is that it turns out that 53 million Americans are freelancing now. That means that includes people that have full-time jobs and they just do Uber on the side or something. But by 2020, we expect that to be 74 million. So that's 50% of the workforce will be doing some freelancing. And so it just shows you how society is changing. And then other cities that have really good data sharing is Oakland County, Michigan, and San Jose has a great open data portal. So I hope Santa Clara will move into the open data arena. Thank you. Okay, so I think we have a report from the Director of Community Development.
Oh, I have
Quick.
something.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I'd like to hear from the, has the CPA happened?
So that's on the 7th. That's what I was just going to ask about on the travel part right there. So am I the only one going down there, or is there somebody else going with me? The conference.
Oh, is
The
anyone else
conference.
going?
Yeah, is there anybody else going on the conference? Just me?
I think,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay. All right. And so, I mean, I'll be down there before our next planning commission meeting, so
Okay.
we're excited for it.
Okay, Director
I
of
have an
Community
announcement.
Development.
So I just completed an accessory dwelling unit at my home, and I had an open house for other homeowners who are interested in building one. We were only open for 3 hours, and we had a huge stream of people coming in. More than 50 people came to hear about this. So that shows the level of interest in the people who want to build an ADU.
Thank you.
About ADU, also having prefab ADU presentation at the Santa Clara County Board of Realtors coming up. That is
Do you want to just email it to everybody?
Yeah, I'll email
Okay.
it. I'm not showing my calendar.
All right. Director of Community Development.
Okay, so since your last meeting, there was only one planning commission, I'm sorry, city council item or meeting that pertained to this body, and one was, as Commissioner Salem mentioned, there was this Tasman East specific plan. So I believe the director included the comments from the city council on the specifics of the plan. And then under the consent calendar, there was a resolution in support of the regional housing needs allocation subregion process, and so that the city will participate in that. So those were the only main items, land use related.
Thank you. Did you want to talk about the budget here?
Yes, if you wanted to look at that. So your current balance right now is, minus the expenditures that are coming up with the conference, is $7,630.
So what you're saying is that we have $7,600 for future
Yes, until
events.
June 30th of next
Yes,
year.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay. Now, we could spend some of that money on attracting speakers for the speaker series. Okay. All right, so,
I have a question. I don't know who nominated me for this attendance on the budget for the NPA conference. I don't think I opted for it.
I'm sorry, could you, attendees, I think there was, at that time, there was mention that we were going to reserve two attendances, or two people attending that meeting. But did you express interest in the national conference too? That's in San Francisco next year?
I don't think so, yeah. But if anybody else is okay, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
It's a local conference, multiple people can attend if you don't avail the hotel. Actually.
There's time, it's not until usually April, May, so we can
I just
wait.
wanted to make sure I didn't opt for it. So
Okay.
if somebody else wanna go for it, that's fine.
okay.
So I have a request about the training, if we're going to have more training. This is something I've been kind of discussing casually with Councilmember O'Neill too, but I'd like to understand the relative costs of type 1 through type 5 construction, and what are the constraints, and what are the conditions that will entice a developer to agree to go to type 1, because it's really unclear, and I have no background in this, but it's something I really like to know. So if
Some of that may come up, or we can ask the developer to address some of that during the study session for the gateway crossings, since that's part of that project.
Sure, but I mean, I'd like to hear from an expert with no agenda.
Sure.
And cost, right? How much is the cost differential and other stuff, right?
I think if I could just expand upon that, Commissioner Casey, I think in addition to maybe some grounding in the different types of construction, maybe the commission would be interested in understanding sort of how is for-profit and nonprofit development financed, and some of the economic factors that go into that.
That's a
so
great
I
topic
think
too,
I think
yeah.
like if we could expand maybe a session, I could talk to Commissioner Jane a little bit more about that. We have some potential ideas to bring in a speaker who could kind of explain this in a more holistic way than just focusing on the types of construction. In addition to that.
Sure, that would be great if we can cover all that. That sounds great. And just out of curiosity, what is a multifamily ADU and multifamily property? I mean, just briefly.
Okay, so I was going to mention that under upcoming agenda items. So we did have this scheduled actually for this evening, but we will be moving that to the next agenda. So we have 130 Serena Way, and that's a city-initiated rezoning to R1 6L. And the other item is the change to the zoning code for 4 of the multifamily zoning districts. And so what occurred was when the first amendments were made to the 2 zoning districts, R1 6L and R1 8L, the state law actually stipulated that if you have multifamily zoning districts that allow single family by right, that you have to include amendments to those ordinances as well to allow ADUs. So we will be adding that language to all those additional codes to support the ADUs if they are developed with single family.
Okay, so we're not talking about ADUs in condo complexes or
no, only
townhomes.
if it's allowed for if you have a existing single family or you propose one.
I see. Understood now. Thank you.
I had a question related to the Gateway Crossing study session. Because that is right near transit, will this new zoning code transit neighborhood of 80 to 350 design units apply to Gateway Crossings?
That's actually coming forward as a PD zoning in order to, I think the timing of both Tasman East and Gateway Crossings was unclear, but I think that a planned development zoning will allow for the densities that we're considering with the general plan designation for higher density near transit, but really recognizing that a new designation probably is better suited for when we update the zoning code. I think we would like to have sort of a higher density residential district that would also allow for a mix of uses, commercial, hotel uses such as in Gateway Crossing. So we're using a PD zoning for Gateway Crossing, but coming forward with the zoning code update for a mixed-use, higher density district.
But Gateway Crossing is not going to go above 100 dwelling units per acre.
Not below?
Not going above 100.
Above, yeah.
So it's not going to go up to 350. It's maxed at 100.
Well, neither is Tasman East if you average it out. So it all depends on your granularity. So, okay. Do you want to go over these future sessions, or you're just handing this out for information?
Just for information only.
Okay. All right. Well, then do we have a motion to?
Motion to close public hearing.
There's no public hearing, it's just adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn. Okay.
I think we need a first to adjourn the meeting.
I'll motion that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Adjourned. Almost made it out by 8. Oh.